people are trying to figure it out on their own, or they don't even realize that they can ask someone.
Just listening to you, I feel like I'm already calming down, you know what I mean? So
I can't tell you the number of times people have come to tears on the phone because we've taken the time to listen to them. I think of it like putting together a puzzle,
Yes.
right? And so you're trying to find the right fit. So I would say make your choices now and make your choices known.
hello everybody, welcome to Let's Talk Senior Living. My name is Jewell Buenavista, and today we're going to talk about the importance of having a care placement agent on your team. And why is that? You know, a lot of people, it gets overwhelming. Let's say your loved one needs help, or even for yourself, but you don't know where to start. So today with us is Julie Derry, who is a care placement agent, and she's going to help us understand what does a care placement do, and kind of walk us through that, how to look for senior living communities, and just walk us through that. So welcome,
Great.
Julie.
Thank you.
You were in corporate America for 25 years.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that, and how did you get to transition to helping seniors and their families?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was very fortunate. I had the opportunity to be a pioneer in the e-commerce space. I happened to be working for a large retailer and in the early 90s, and there was this conversation about e-commerce, and so built a career working at large retailers such as Harry & David, REI, Guitar Center, See's Candies, and I loved it. I loved being close to the customer and working as a team to support the initiatives. And I also, in addition to building my career, I was conservator, or am conservator, for my brother who is special needs and has been. He has intellectual and physical disabilities since birth. And he functions as if he's about 6 years old. And so while I was building my career, and I'd moved from Oregon to Washington and Washington to California, I needed to move him to somewhere where I could still visit on a regular basis and oversee his care. So I'd put him into a group home. And what would happen is I would go out and visit these group homes because I'm choosing how my brother's day-to-day life is going to go, who he's going to interact with, where he's going to, sit and sleep and eat and go outside, right? All these different things. Everything about his day-to-day I was choosing for him. And when I got to a point where I've been 25 years in corporate America, and I was just ready to make a change, ready to do something different, and I wanted to help others. And I really wanted to either help people with special needs like my brother or older adults, people that need the support and it's not always readily available.
When you have to act on behalf of somebody else, it gets overwhelming. Like, walk me through. How do you even start that?
Yeah. So, fast forward to what I'm doing today, right? So today I help older adults and their families find assisted living, memory care, and in-home care, right? And so what I do is the first question I ask somebody is, what's going on, right? I have a database that has all these structured, right? How tall are they? How much do they weigh? How old are they? What are their, physical conditions? So I have that, but I can learn so much more if I just say, what's going on? I'll tell you, I had a situation about a year ago, and I had this woman call me up. And she was, I could just hear in her voice that she was distraught.
Yes.
And she said, I just need somebody who can take my parents to the grocery store. Can you just get me somebody that can take my parents to the grocery store? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I can do that. But tell me what's going on. There was a lot going on, right? There was a lot going on.
It took for her to get to a point where I need help.
Right.
Yes.
But there was so much going on behind the, I just need someone to take my parents, because that was like the basic need. It turned out that both of her parents have dementia.
Oh my goodness.
And she was so overwhelmed that all she could think about is, how are they going to eat? And so once we were able to have a conversation and understand everything that was going on, then we were able to put a plan in place around her and to leverage a network of people that could support her and her parents. But it was really taking the time, because I could have easily said, yeah, call this person, they can take you to the grocery store, right?
So is that exactly what a care placement agent does? Can you help us understand, what is a care placement agent?
Yeah. Yeah, so, and, you know, we're called all kinds of things, right? We're called placement specialists or placement professionals, senior living advisors. So there are a lot of different titles for what we do, but basically what we're doing is understanding what the care needs are of the individual, and then based on their care needs, understanding what resources are available that can meet those needs. Sometimes I think of it like putting together a puzzle,
yes,
right? And so you're trying to find the right fit. And, you know, one of the things that we like to say is one size fits one, because I don't want to just give you all the information that I have, because all that's going to do is continue to overwhelm you,
yes,
right? But if I can find out what's going on with you and your parents, then I can customize my response to what you need and make it simpler for you, right?
You know, just hearing that, I already feel like calm, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when people are needing help, it's because they don't know where to start, right? Like they just feel like they feel so overwhelmed, like where do I start? And you hearing you say, you're going to just listen to them, find out what their needs are, and then take it step by step.
Yes.
Is already, like, just listening to you, I feel like I'm already calming, you know, calming down. You know what I mean? So
I can't tell you the number of times people have come to tears on the phone because we've taken the time to listen to them and just let them get it all out.
yes.
And I can get all the information that I need to fill in the boxes in the database just by having the conversation, just by listening. And if there's something, you didn't tell me how much your mom weighs, okay, I can ask you, okay, hey, listen, I just need to put this into the database, because, and that's kind of an interesting one, like, why do you need to know how much my mom weighs? But the reason being is if the person needs help getting in and out of bed, it makes a difference in how big they are and can their caregiver support that individual.
So let me walk me through that process. Now that you've heard what my needs are, what happens next?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first and foremost, we have to understand needs. And no matter where you are in the country, that's going to be the most important thing is what are the person's needs? So we're here in San Diego, California. My father is a good example. So my father is diabetic and he's on insulin. So he is able to self-administer his insulin. However, as he ages, if he got to the point because of his vision or his dexterity, he wasn't able to, in the state of California, you need a nurse to administer insulin. So here in San Diego County, there are 600 options for assisted living, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah. But when it comes down to insulin, I'm going to start with 600. I'm going to get down to about 20. So that's why I need to understand the care needs first, because if you start talking to me about, oh, I want to live on the coast, I may not be able to put you on the coast if there isn't anybody over there that can help you with insulin. So I need to understand
each community is licensed to perform certain services. Is that what it is?
So there's a, regardless of where you are in the country, there's going to be some sort of legislation that tells you how you operate a care facility.
Got it.
And so, but then there's what you can do, and then there's the policies that an individual organization would have. So just because you can administer insulin, you may choose not to do that because that means having a nurse 24 hours a day. So you may not want to have a nurse in your building 24 hours a day, so you may choose not to have that care need supported.
So you match me based on my needs or based on what my parents, my loved ones' needs are.
Exactly.
To the right community that will be able to
support your
meet
needs.
that need.
Exactly right.
Got it.
And it's also important to, in addition to, we want to look at the whole person, right? So we want to look at, one of the things that we learned through the pandemic was the importance of socialization. And what we saw is that specifically people with dementia, that the disease actually accelerated during the pandemic because they weren't getting the interaction that they needed and the stimulation, right? And so we know that that's critically important. So that's one of the questions that I'll ask is, what is your loved one's day-to-day look like, right? So I can understand and then I'll also ask them, what kind of hobbies did they have in the past, so that we can understand who they've been throughout their lifetime, and because that really helps us understand what type of setting they might enjoy most. So if they had been a engineer or a teacher, or that tells you a little bit about who they are, which again helps you. And if there's a community that I'm familiar with that has a lot of teachers, that might be a good fit for them. And so the more I can know about an individual, if I can meet them in their home, that's even better. Because just being in someone's home, you get a sense for who they are and what's important to them.
So you mentioned that you helped your dad locate.
I did.
And your dad is very independent still, so it's not necessarily for somebody. You don't just help people that need assisted living. You help people that are even independent.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because again, there's some of the things we look at is socialization. And so like my dad, for example, was living in Northern California, and he lived in a rural community, and he loves the outdoors, and his day-to-day was every morning he would go to Starbucks. He's diabetic. He would get a cookie and apple juice. He would drive down to the river. He'd listen to his radio show and watch the squirrels play. That was his day-to-day. And then he would come home and he would be on his computer or watching TV. That was his whole day. So his social interaction was pretty much limited to the barista at Starbucks, right? So after, I would go up and visit him about once a quarter and help him maintain his home and get things cleaned up, take him to doctor's appointments, that kind of thing. I'd come back 3 months later, and we're back to ground zero, right?
Yes.
And get it up to this point, and so we did this for 2 years, and he was starting to miss some doctor's appointments, and things weren't going as well as they could. So he calls me and says, "I'd like to move to San Diego." I never thought I was going to get that call, right? But sure enough, bring him to San Diego, and the things, like you said, he was completely independent, but he didn't cook for himself, right? So nutrition wasn't ideal for him. He wasn't getting the social interaction that he needs. He wasn't able to maintain the home anymore, and like the basic housekeeping. Those were things that he wasn't doing anymore. And so in independent living, that's exactly what they do.
Yes.
Right? They take care of your meals.
Yep.
They take care of the house maintenance. The light goes out, you call the front desk and they fix the light, right? So the thing that I thought was most interesting though with my dad coming into independent living is all of a sudden he started participating in activities.
Wow. And that's the beauty of these senior living communities.
Yeah. I took him to the doctor and the receptionist said, "We need to schedule a follow-up appointment." And I was thinking, Fridays are usually quieter for me, so let's do a Friday. And my dad goes, I said, "What?" He goes, "I have music on Fridays, so could we do it on Wednesday?"
So it's beyond the Starbucks run. He's doing all these activities.
Music and blackjack and cornhole. Yeah, he's doing all this stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's living his best life, literally living his best life at 84, soon to be 84 years old. Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah. So a care placement, so you understand my needs. Maybe I'm independent or maybe I need some care.
Yep.
You match me with the right community that will support or maybe fit my vibe, what my social activities are.
Fitting the vibe's an important piece.
Yes, fitting the vibe. And that's, so to me, I feel like I need you part of my village. Does it cost somebody, how we get compensated? So the way we get compensated is when we find you the right location, then that community is happy to pay us a commission for bringing you. So it's free.
Free to the family. And I've been doing this 9.5 years. I have got a lot of experience. I know the services are available. So yeah, use my experience. It's free. It's
exactly.
Free.
We need to make sure that, did you hear that? It is free to have a care placement agent to act on your behalf, do all the research for you. And you know what's out there.
Right.
And that lessens I can't imagine looking at 600 different places here in San Diego.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you could pretty much help narrow that down.
Very quickly, and so just using that again as an example, which it would apply across the country, but they're here in the county, San Diego County, the 600, well, 80% of those are the smaller residential care homes, also called like a boarding care or a 6-bed. And what's important is when we're understanding what somebody's care needs are, is we want to think about today, but we also need to be thinking longer term. And so like the first year as a placement agent, I thought, well, if I do my job well, I'm going to find the best place for them and they'll be able to live out their life there. But the challenge with that is that you go into this beautiful community and you've got an indoor swimming pool and an outdoor swimming pool and a movie theater and 3 restaurants, right? You've got all these things. But then your care needs start to increase over time, and you're no longer taking advantage of those amenities and all the activities.
I see.
So then at that point, it might be a better option for you actually to be in one of these smaller residential care homes where there's only 6 residents, there's 2 caregivers, and they can provide a lot of individualized attention. So what we've done is we stay in contact with our families. So when a loved one moves into either a community, a large community, or a smaller residential care home, we stay in contact. We check in the day after, because that first day you want to make sure everything's gone well. So we check in the day after, the week after, the month after, and then quarterly. Through the duration of that person's life, we're checking in quarterly. So that if something changes where they're at and they need to make a move, we're there to support them.
I mean, just hearing you say that, like, I need to have your number on speed dial, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For somebody who's, even for a senior themselves, like, hey, my care, like, instead of me trying to figure it out myself, or an adult child trying to help figuring it out themselves, I could just contact, hey, Julie, like, my care needs are changing. Please help me figure out what's the best course of action for me.
Totally.
So they need to have your number on speed dial.
Well, it's we were talking earlier, and my number one referral source is past clients, and I get a lot of calls from past clients, and I also get a lot of calls across the country. And I just yesterday I had a client that I'm helping move from Denver. So I contacted someone who does what I do in Denver to get some information, because I need to get that person from the assisted living community they're living in Denver to the Denver airport, and we need a medical or a chair, wheelchair transport, right? So being able to have those connections where you can support people wherever they're at, whether they're coming to San Diego or they're going from San Diego to another location. I've got a gal moving in from Manhattan. So I found a counterpart on my side, because she's got some anxiety around this, and she's always lived in Manhattan, and to come to San Diego, right? And so same thing, I contacted somebody.
It's an overwhelming process.
Yeah, so I contacted somebody over there that can hold her hand on that side while I work here with the daughter and taking care of everything here.
So now I understand what a care placement agent does. Julie, can you break down the differences between types of senior living? Because a lot of people are under the impression, when I think of senior living or retirement communities, they think it's a what?
Nursing home.
Nursing home. But
nursing home.
You and I both know it's
so far.
It's so far from that.
So far from that.
Help us understand, what are the different types of senior living communities, just so for our audience and our viewers to understand the differences between all of them.
Yeah, and I think what ends up happening is that we all have some sort of memory of a nursing home.
Yes.
Right, whether it was our great-grandparents or our grandparents, but at some point in time, we had an experience in a nursing home, and I think that sticks with us, and it certainly sticks with our parents, that they had that type of experience, and so it's shattering that, because that's not what exists anymore. And so what you'll hear often is a cruise ship on land, right? Because these communities, they have, like I mentioned, where my dad's at, there's 2 swimming pools, indoor and outdoor. There are, I think there's 3 restaurants, 2 movie theaters, right? They actually do outside movies. They do scenic drives. They do trips to the casino. They do trips down to.
Sounds so fun.
Right? Exactly. Exactly.
I can't wait to qualify for a senior living community.
So you've got independent living, and in an independent living, when you think about what needs are being met, so in independent living, you've got your social interaction, right? They've got that covered, right? So you got your social interaction covered. You've got your nutrition. Your meals are prepped for you, planned for you. So that's covered. You've got your housekeeping and your house maintenance. So that's all taken care of for you in the independent living. Now and there's a little bit of variation in independent living. You can have a community that is all independent living. So everyone in the building, or maybe they have multiple buildings, but everybody's independent. Or you can have a situation where it is a community that has an independent living. Maybe they have 1 or 2 or 3 independent living buildings, but they may also have an assisted living building and a memory care, but it's still part of the same community. And the third is more of like a hybrid, where you would have a building that has all the different apartments, and some people are living there independently, and some people are getting assisted living services. And one of the advantages to that setup is that you never have to move apartments. You can move in independently, and then when you need assisted living services, they can be brought to you. And when we talk about assisted living services, specifically what we're talking about there would be like medication management, and then activities of daily living, which is bathing, grooming, dressing, transferring, and toileting. So transferring is
so it's not necessarily medical. They just need help with their daily activities.
Right, so transferring would be getting in and out of bed. Can I get in and out of my bed on my own? Can I get in and out of a chair on my own? Do I need one person to help me? Do I need 2 people to help me? So when I'm doing my initial conversation with the family, that's what I'm trying to understand is how much help do they need, if any? Are they completely independent, or do they need some help with those? If it's bathing, do they just need someone to stand outside the bathroom while they're taking a shower? Do they need someone to actually shower them?
I mean, you said cruise ship on land, which sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, but it also sounds expensive.
Yeah.
So how do people? I mean, is it only the wealthy that can like live in these places, or how do people pay for like senior living communities?
Yeah, so I think some people, it varies greatly, and it also, the cost varies. So I can give you like the median cost in San Diego County, but it's going to vary greatly depending upon where you're at in the county, and that's going to be anywhere in the country. There's going to be parts of an area that are going to be more affordable than other parts of an area. Your care needs are definitely going to increase your costs. So if your care needs go up, your costs are going to go up. So it varies a lot.
But do you know the average cost?
Sure. So the average cost here in San Diego County is, based on 2023, was $7,200 is the median.
Assisted living?
Median cost for assisted living.
How about for independent living?
Independent living here in San Diego County, you're probably closer to about 45 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah, 4,500 to 5,000.
But that could be different throughout the nation.
It can be different throughout the nation, and it can vary greatly. If are you going to be in a studio? Are you going to be in a 2-bedroom? Are you going to be here in San Diego County? Are you going to be in La Jolla? Are you going to be in National City? So it can vary greatly depending upon what it is that you're having.
Are there programs to help pay for senior living?
Yeah. So ways people go about paying for assisted living. One of the first questions I'll ask is, were you or your spouse in the military? And because there are benefits for veterans, and there are 2 programs. There's the Homemaker program and the Aid and Attendance program. And so the Homemaker program allows for caregivers to come into your home, and it starts at about 16 hours a week. And then the Aid and Attendance program is where you're actually given a check. If you qualify, you're actually given a check, and then you can use that to either bring in caregivers into your own home or to pay for assisted living.
So many veterans don't even know about these.
So many veterans don't know about this.
There's benefits. So, so if you're a veteran, please look into these programs
Homemaker.
that is possible for you to help pay for senior living communities.
Yes.
What else do people use to help pay? Can you use long-term care insurance?
So long-term care insurance, only about 10% of the population actually has a long-term care policy. If you do have one, please use it. I can't tell you the number of times I've worked with a client and they wanted to stay home, so they stayed home maybe longer than was best for them, and then they ended up not using their policy. So if you do have a policy, use it, because you've paid into it, so use it. Yeah.
Are there any other programs
So,
available?
so there's Medicaid, which would be a federal program here in California. We call it Medi-Cal, and so it varies greatly by state. Some states, they have very liberal Medicaid programs, and where they will allow for people to live in these communities that we've talked about, and Medicaid will pay a percentage of that. In California, you need to apply for a waiver, and there's a wait list for the waiver, but then you can move into a community and have the waiver offset what you can't pay.
I mean, so now I understand exactly what you do. You're going to be part of my village
Yeah.
to help me or my loved one find a community. And now I understand like what the cost of it is and the different types. What are the most common mistakes families make?
Can I say one more thing about cost? The other thing I would say about cost is, if you look at it in terms of people, whether they want to move into assisted living or they want to stay home, right? So what we know is about 77% of people want to age in place. They want to stay home. That's their intention, to age in their own home, right? And according to AARP, about 45% are able to do so easily. And so having a plan for how will I age in place is important, and understanding the cost when you do need care. And so the median cost in San Diego County is for in-home care is $38 an hour. So if you look at the median cost of in-home care at $38, the median cost of assisted living at about $7,200, at about 6.5 hours of in-home care a day, it's actually more cost effective to go into assisted living. So those are things that you want to understand, because it can make a difference in having, am I going to have 6.5 hours of care, or am I going to have 24 hours of care? So I think
that's a good magic number. Like if I could age in place, hire home care to come in, but if I'm starting to need more than 6.5 hours a day, it's a good idea to start looking into assisted living or retirement communities which sounds more cost effective.
Yeah, and it varies by community, of course, or by state. It would probably vary what that magic number is, but anybody would be able to calculate that. So here's what the average for assisted living is, and here's what the average for in-home care is, and you'd be able to figure out what that magic number is.
Okay. So let me ask you, Julie, can you highlight the common mistakes families make? You know, I'm sure there's a lot, because a lot of times it's like, I don't even know where to start, and then how can we avoid them?
I'd say, they're probably, it's hard to say mistake, because, we do what we do.
Just trying to
we're all
figure it
trying
out.
We're trying to figure it out. We're all
out.
trying to figure it out. We're all doing the best that we can do,
Yes.
right? I think how we do one thing is how we do most things, right? And so if you're a person who tends to do everything on your own, you may be reluctant to ask for help. And so I do think that is one thing we see, is people are trying to figure it out on their own, or they don't even realize that they can ask someone.
And that they don't realize there's help that's available. Like this, we're learning that your help is actually free to me and my family, to be able to use you to help us figure out what to do.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and there's so many people like myself across the country, right? And in all parts of the industry, so not just placement specifically, but the vast majority of people I've met in the industry across the country, their heart is in the right place. They're doing this because they love it. I don't even feel like I'm working, right? I feel like I'm helping friends and families and neighbors, and it doesn't feel like I'm having fun. I'm having fun doing this, right? It feels great.
Yes.
It feels great to share the knowledge that you have with someone else and to make a difference for them. So I think, I'd say one of the things that people just don't know who to ask, or they don't know to ask. So find your person, right? Because if I know you, and I know that you have a network, I can go to you, and I know you can connect me with the right person. And so find that person who can connect you to others in the village.
And that's so true. When you find that person, because I was that person for a long time here in San Diego. Even if it's not the service that I'm providing that they need help with, I'm going to help you find that person, because it really is our passion and love to help seniors and their families. And we understand how overwhelming the process can be.
100%.
Right? And so And so I like that the most common, one of the common mistakes people make is they don't know, they don't ask for help, but we're telling everybody there's help out there. Ask for help, and help is available to a lot of families and resources that can really help you figure out. Your company's called Agent 123. It's to help figure out the steps. What did you say?
Yeah, so I named my agency Aging 123, and the intention behind that is what I had heard from every client I've ever worked with is I'm overwhelmed. And I wanted to be able to break it down to simple steps for them, kind of like the very first conversation you and I had at the start of this was, and where you said, well, you felt relaxed just knowing. And that's what I want, is I want people to be able to relax. I want to be able to tell them, okay, we're going to do this, and then this, and then this, and we're going to get this done.
Can you share, just so for our viewers, some examples of families that you've helped? You talked about your dad, right? You know, so I mean, he was independent. You moved him from Northern California to Southern. So it's not like he really needed assisted living. He just needed that socialization. But I can't imagine him doing it on his own without you being part of his village. Can you give us like real life stories of clients that you've helped, families that you've helped, so that our viewers can see, hey, that's the situation that I'm in?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many. Yeah, there's so many. I think one thing that comes to mind for me in that is ensuring that people have a durable power of attorney in place, because the one thing I have seen over and over is that someone, either they don't have durable power of attorney in place, or and I can give you specific examples, and I will, but they don't have a durable power of attorney in place, or they don't have an alternate named. So, and then that makes it so challenging to be able to support them.
Help me understand, what is the purpose of having a dual power of attorney?
Yeah, so a durable power of attorney allows for someone to act on your behalf when you can't. And so a specific example is I had a husband and wife, both with dementia. They had named each other as their power of attorney, but they didn't have the capacity, and there was nobody named as an alternate. So what ended up happening is they went, were picked up by the ambulance because the woman had gone out looking for her dog who had passed away 5 years ago. She crossed a main intersection, couldn't get back. And so the neighbor went and got her. The neighbor called me, and I got in contact with 911 and the ambulance, called the hospital, right? So you see how the network all comes together, right? So we eventually got them both to the hospital. It took us over 2 months to work through the court system to get them out of the hospital and into a care home, because they didn't have someone that could act on their behalf. And we had to go through the court system to have someone that could then make decisions for them.
So really, the lesson learned here, what I'm hearing is, get all of that, your legal documents in place. Proactively.
I had another situation where I had a client who had named her son as her power of attorney with no alternate, and her son later became diagnosed with schizophrenia and didn't have the capacity to make decisions for her. And so then again, we were in the same situation where we're in the court system again, trying to find someone who can act on her behalf. So yeah, having that durable power of attorney, ensuring that the person, I had another situation where a woman had been named as a durable power of attorney for a grade school friend, hadn't spoken to the person in years, and we actually found this woman on Facebook. We found this woman on Facebook in Texas, and contacted her and let her know that she'd been named power of attorney, and we needed her support because the woman had dementia and couldn't make decisions on her own. And so this woman was amazing, and she flew out and she did everything there was to do. But you want to make sure that the person is willing and able.
Yes.
That they know that you're going to name them as your power of attorney, right? And you want to check that. You want to check that. I think that best practice is to check that every 3 to 5 years, but just make sure that you're checking in to see, okay, who's my durable power of attorney? Do I have an alternate named? Is this person, both of these people still willing and able to take this on? I have situations where a client will have adult children, and they don't want to have to choose between their adult children who they're going to name as their power of attorney, so they'll actually use a fiduciary, a third party, to do that for them. So there are multiple ways you can support it, but I think it's planning ahead, because if you don't make choices while you're still able to make them, then somebody else will make them for you, and they may not be the same choices you would have made.
Great. So you know what? I've learned so much just sitting here listening to you. One, I feel so calm knowing that you will help me in times of trying to figure out what to do. Me or my loved one. So for the viewers here, find a care placement agent that can help you with that. Mm-hmm. And I love knowing that it's at no cost. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. And so I'm definitely going to have your number on speed dial if that time came for me to. Is there anything else that, if you were to share with our viewers, what's a hack, a senior living hack that you could give our viewers, something like, any tip or anything you'd like to share that it would be great for them to know?
Yeah, I think what I would say is, make choices now.
Yes.
Right? Make choices now, and it can be, start with the basics. Make sure you have that durable power of attorney. And you can get very detailed. Especially, there's so many solo agers anymore, so people who no spouse, no children, yes. And maybe their siblings and their parents have passed. So you want to make sure that you detail how you want to live your life, so that somebody else can actually pick that up and say, okay, this is how they take their coffee. This is right. I mean, the very simple day-to-day activities, you want someone to know, this is the TV shows I like to watch, because if something were to happen to you and you couldn't verbalize, you want someone else to be able to support you in how you want to live your life. So I would say, make your choices now and make your choices known.
And it's your choice. It's not somebody else making it for you.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Julie.
Yeah.
This was a very awesome conversation, and I'm hoping the viewers have learned a lot today. So again, go out there and look for a care placement agent, especially if you are dealing with a loved one that needs that assistance now. Don't do it by yourself. There is help out there. There are resources out there. So thank you so much. Like I mentioned, it really does take a village to take care of our seniors and our elders in our community. And create your village now. As I always remind everybody, as Ephesians 6:2 always says, honor your father and mother. Have a great day, everybody.